This is our last week of dynamic duos, and we have saved the hardest characteristic of dynamic relationships for last. Encouragement and care and learning, those all leave us feeling good. But what about those tough conversations with friends that tend to sting a little bit at first? We recently got a new family car, and my favorite part of this car are all the lights and cameras and alerts that keep you from wrecking your new car. There's the backup camera so you can see what's behind you. There's the side mirrors that have these little lights that let you know if there's a car in your blind spot. And if you start to merge into somebody anyway, it just beeps at you. And these features can't totally prevent accidents, but they can reduce your odds of hitting something. And I wish I had a lot of these features in my life too. How nice would it be if you could have cameras showing you, okay, if you go here, you're going to run into something. Or go ahead and turn this way, it's all clear. Or what if life had little lights that alerted you, like you're missing something in your blind spot right now? Little beeps that said, you're about to crash into something. Think of how many problems we could avoid, how many life wrecks we would prevent. Because we're a lot like cars. We have blind spots. We can't always see everything around us clearly. We make a turn down a road without knowing what's over there, and sometimes we're just moving too fast and we're too distracted, and then it's too late. We need friends that can be those blind spot monitors for us, that can see what we can't and alert us when we're getting into trouble. And this is the fifth and final quality of dynamic duos. They challenge each other. A good friend will point out everything you're doing right and they'll cheer you on. But a great friend has the courage to point out when you're going down the wrong path, and they can help you course correct. And Nathan was one of those great friends for King David. David had messed up big time. He had an affair, he lied, he got someone killed, but what seems really obvious to us had become this blind spot for David. He thought he had every right as king to do what he wanted. He thought he was doing what was necessary to protect himself. Nathan was that beeping blind spot alert, trying to keep David from causing even more damage than he already had. Nathan worked up the courage to go and confront the king. He didn't come in yelling and accusing and condemning David. He eased into the conversation. He told a story, a parable, about a rich man that took advantage of a poor man and stole from him. And David responded with anger. Who could do such a thing? David saw that it was obviously wrong. David burned with anger and said to Nathan, "As surely as the Lord lived, the man who did this must die." That's when Nathan broke the real news. David, you are the rich man in this story. Nathan helped David see what he couldn't see about himself. Where David saw an innocent mistake, Nathan saw this big character flaw. David believed his actions were reasonable, and Nathan saw that they were really selfish. David thought, the problem's fixed, and Nathan saw all the wreckage that he had left behind. David couldn't see the situation clearly until Nathan described it from his perspective. And then David was able to admit it to himself. We are often not the best evaluators of ourselves in our lives. It's hard to see a situation clearly when we're in the middle of it. Our own emotions get in the way of clarity. We see everything from our perspective, and we usually give ourselves the benefit of the doubt too. We're pretty good at justifying our own actions. And one of the many benefits of these deep relationships is that they provide us another perspective. A few months ago I was telling a friend about my busy week and all the meetings and emails and phone calls and long hours, and honestly, I was trying to brag to her and get a pat on the back for all my hard work. I thought I was coming across as this dedicated and faithful pastor. My friend, though, had a different perspective. She said, "It sounds like you have trouble saying no to people. Do you think you might be so busy because you're a people pleaser and you might be more effective if you stop trying to do it all?" Now, this was not the response I was looking for that day, but it is the response that I needed, because she could see what I couldn't. I thought I was on this path to success, and she saw me headed straight for disaster. I'm grateful that she had the courage to say something to me and not just give me the pat on the back that I was clearly searching for. Proverbs 27:6 says, "Wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses." It stings at first to hear those things, but it's better for us in the long term. Shallow relationships, they don't do this for each other. The dynamic relationships do. The deep relationships, they've enough trust built up to have these conversations. Close friends know each other well to not only see the blind spots, but know how to communicate so that maybe it stings a little bit less. And the strong relationships are able to survive these tough conversations. This is our last quality of dynamic duos because it is the hardest. No one likes to hear constructive criticism. We just don't. I have seen kind and well-meaning constructive criticism still ruin friendships because it wasn't handled well. But if we can master this one, if we can have relationships that are constantly challenging us to be better, we will start to grow exponentially. We will avoid a lot of crashes. So here's how David and Nathan pulled it off. First, Nathan approached David at the right time, the right place, and in the right way. Nathan didn't do this publicly to embarrass David. He didn't attack him. He didn't bring it up in the heat of the moment. No, Nathan was intentional about his delivery. And second, David didn't get defensive. David heard him out, and he was willing to consider that Nathan might be right, and he was willing to admit that he might be wrong. Third, Nathan ended with forgiveness and encouragement. The end of the conversation was not, "I can't believe how horrible you've been. I want nothing to do with you. This friendship is over." What Nathan said is, "The Lord has taken away your sin. You are not going to die." Now, there were still serious consequences. Nathan couldn't change that. But he reminded David that he was going to stay in relationship with him despite these failures. So neither David's mistakes nor Nathan's confrontation were going to end this relationship. Now, this is our last week of dynamic duos, and our last Be Dynamic challenge is our toughest one yet. And even though the study is ending this week, I hope you will still commit to trying this last challenge. I want all of us to find someone we trust, someone who knows us well, and invite them to give us some constructive criticism. If possible, try to pick someone who is not your spouse. Most spouses you're already great at the constructive criticism thing. Hopefully it's constructive. Try and find somebody different. This week, try and find a friend that might be able to see your blind spots, that just might know you better than you know yourself. And I want you to ask them this question. What is one area of my life where you see an opportunity for me to grow or change for the better? And then tell them, I'm in this dynamic duo training and you can be as honest as you want. There's no fear of repercussions. And then try your best to listen and hear them out. This will not only make us better, it will make our relationships stronger. The work in this study doesn't end because the series is ending. It takes longer than 6 weeks to go from lonely to connected, from superficial to meaningful, from independent to supported. So look back through the study guide. Which week do you need to continue working on? Which practices do you need to repeat? What area of your relationship do you need to keep strengthening? That work is going to continue. I hope your house churches have grown closer over these 6 weeks and that they will continue to grow closer over the rest of the year. If you're feeling alone, or like most of your current relationships are actually these deceptive connections, these house churches can become the type of real dynamic friends that help you grow and care for you and encourage you and bring you closer to Jesus. Continue to make time for this group. Continue to be honest and open with one another. Continue to share your lives with one another. Continue to pray for one another. I'm looking forward to hearing how these relationships and these groups continue to change all of us for the better and make your life more dynamic.